Hello and welcome to the Tips with Toni podcast. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am beyond excited for today's interview. I don't know if you can hear it through my voice, but this next guest is somebody who's very close to me. He's married to my best friend. He is amazing in what he does, and not shout out Mel. Sorry, I'm going to introduce Mel even though she's not on the podcast. But
That's great. That's great. No, that's wonderful.
But Rob is married to my best friend Melanie, who I have to get her on the podcast. I think she was on the Gym Wits, but she was never on this podcast. But anyways, they are an amazing couple. They are amazing in their own individual ways. And I'm so excited for us to learn about what Rob does. So just to give you a little bit of a background, although I'll have you introduce yourself in a second. He's a strength coach, co-founder of the Bandana Training Club, and also co-founder of Rumble Boxing. So you probably have heard of either or. He's really, really smart. He knows a lot about nutrition. He's also an excellent writer. So his blog posts are so awesome to follow. They're so easy to digest. He's just really, really amazing at what he does. And he's also funny. So he makes things super easy to, feel like you can feel comfortable approaching him. So if any questions you guys have, I'm pretty positive we'll address them today. But if we don't, just know Rob was there to answer any questions. So anyways, without further ado, Rob, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Toni. I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to chit chat with you today. And it's funny. I think maybe the first time we met was when Mel in the gym, when Mel did the OG podcast.
Yeah.
That might have been the first time you and I met each other.
Yeah. It was like before I had a podcast that I was trying to get the YouTube channel going, but it wasn't, It was going, it was still great. That was when you were able to go in person and to, interview people. And yeah, she was working for CrossFit at the time or going to CrossFit at the time. And we interviewed her and that was so great. Yeah. That was
I think that was the first time I met you, which is funny to think about now.
It had to be 4 years ago.
Must have been. Yeah, it must have been at least 4 years ago. So it seems like a lifetime ago. Considering that this past year, it feels, like an eternity.
It's for real. The longest year ever. I know this is not part of the podcast, but you might have to talk about how you made your wedding special when it got canceled in COVID, because that's why this year has felt so long, in particular for people that I think were looking forward to a big day, and then to have it all just oh God, but you guys really made the best of it. It was on the news and everything.
It got picked up. It was on, we tried to make lemonade, but it was tough, to be honest. Canceling a wedding is never, ever fun. And just watching it kind of all fall apart. To let everyone know, we were getting married basically right when COVID hit. It was the first week of COVID. So we were, kind of figuring it out in real time. We were supposed to go to Mexico, and that week, my brother's in the military, and they got the news pretty early on, and then we kind of found out that he couldn't come. My other best friend is in the military, he couldn't come, and all of a sudden it was like we were watching our wedding self-destruct, and it was very emotional. It was tough. It was tough. But then we did a digital broadcast from our living room. My best friend who ordained the wedding, we had him on the television screen. And it ended up being its own kind of special. So we tried to make the most of it, as I know many of us are trying to do in the year 2020 and 2021 here.
Right. And it's so sad that we have to say 2020 and 2021. If we thought it would be over.
Exactly. We can't just keep adding years to this. This just feels unfair at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right. Well, anyways, I'm sorry we went off tangent, but can you formally introduce yourself? We started with the wedding. Sorry.
That's right.
Shout out to Mel. I know she's listening.
That's right. We're gonna keep circling back to Mel. We'll keep circling back to Mel every couple minutes to give her love,
Sorry, not sorry. Anyways, all right. So Rob, let's have you introduce yourself. Anytime I have a guest, the question I ask first is for you to just share who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
All right. So thank you for the introduction, by the way. That was thorough, and I thought you covered the bases. Yeah, I'm a writer. I'm a strength coach. I'm a fitness instructor. And right now, that kind of typically means digital stuff. So I've been filming a lot of fitness content. I've had kind of an interesting career. I was a wrestler in college. And then from there, I worked as a strength coach for my university, which was a great start for me. And then I moved to New York City and I got into personal training. I started training some athletes, some Olympians, some CEOs, the kind of fancy people you end up training in New York. And then I got more into writing, and I was writing for Men's Health, Men's Fitness. I was asked to be on the board of advisors for Arnold Schwarzenegger, which was pretty awesome. And then I did a TV show. I was a trainer on a television show on ABC. And then after that, I got together with a crew of entrepreneurs, and I started Rumble. We started Rumble together, and that's kind of been the span of my career in a nutshell.
You've done a lot. You've
I
done a lot.
appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's
That's
highs and
really
lows.
an impressive thing, like really, really impressive things. And you don't get into those places unless you're good at what you do. Like you really, really earned it. Although maybe we might talk later about some people that might have lots of followers that might get some opportunities that maybe they shouldn't have. But I
That's
know
right.
for you,
That's
you
right.
have
I'm
you
excited.
have quality work, you know.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So did you got into it mostly because like wrestling, you like always kind of worked out and just like training was important to you? Like what makes you still
Yeah,
do it today?
yeah, I think growing up as an athlete, it was such a natural part of my life. But I remember in the early days as a trainer, like I got a Christmas card one year from a client, and the Christmas card kind of talked about how meaningful our work was together and how much her life had changed. And I really think that was one of those moments where I was like, wow, like the things that we get to do, like we really have the power to dramatically improve people's lives.
Hmm.
And um, I was still kind of a young trainer, and I think I was still kind of figuring out my own career path at the time. But I remember thinking, this is powerful stuff, and it's very meaningful to know that you can really improve someone's life, like we have the power to do. And so I think that's kind of what keeps me coming back to it. Is like it it feels like very meaningful work, and it's also stuff that I is such an important part of my life that it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that definitely, definitely. I mean, it's always really nice to hear when you make one change in someone's life. It's never really one change, right? They usually, they have more energy, they have more confidence, but that's what got them the confidence to date. And now they're with somebody who's important and who treats them well. And, it's just so much bigger than just like getting a workout in.
Oh, absolutely. And when you kind of witness it firsthand, and like you see a client's life dramatically transform, yeah, there's nothing better.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned you were on a weight loss show. Tell us more about
Yes.
that, because I also know that your views of, body image and weight loss are very similar to mine. And I'm sure,
Yeah.
I wonder, because you said you were a young trainer, and also my views have changed in the beginning of my career as an RD and like over time. I'm curious, like what your experience was going into being on this weight loss show, and like maybe the lessons you kind of learned from it, or kind of your views about them, maybe after the fact.
Sure. Yeah, I'm proud of the work I did on the show. I'm proud of how I represented myself. I'm proud of my partner who I was paired up with, and she kicked ass, Latasha. And overall, I would say it was a pretty positive experience for me. But I think we can also just acknowledge that like weight loss shows and weight loss itself is complicated.
Mhm.
And um, I think that if you're starting from a place of like, let's see who can lose the most amount of weight as quick as possible, like that's sort of a problematic starting point. So I do think that I would be excited about weight loss show, and I think the tide is kind of turning, and I hope it continues to turn. But I would be excited about shows in the future that I think get a little bit more into the nuance of weight and talk about the stuff that I know we both talk about on the regular,
Mhm.
and maybe offer a more a Hayes friendly approach to weight, or it doesn't even center weight, right? That talks about other biomarkers of health that are important, that talks about really long-term habit change and, kind of the more deep psychological work that
Mhm.
we get into. So I'm hoping that the future of the next generation of weight loss shows doesn't look like the ones that we're familiar with. I
Mhm.
really hope that, and I would love to be a part of something like that. I would just love it to be, I think, to be a little bit more realistic and a little bit more like having deeper conversations around this stuff instead of just like who can lose the most amount of weight and how fast can they do it.
Right, right. Exactly. And the support of, even if you're, because like so to be, I don't think I think I saw segments of the show that you were on, and that was how many years ago? When were
Yeah,
you
that
on
was
this?
at least 5 years ago. I think it premiered 2016.
Right. So
So
like that and that's, we're not talking about The Biggest Loser, but I have watched The Biggest Loser. And
yeah,
what I've noticed, and not all the episodes, because after a while it started to bother me. And you know what's interesting? This is just like me being fully just really vulnerable and honest. Like I said, throughout my career, my views have changed, right? So in the very early stages of my career, when I think I still was working on my stuff, I would watch those shows and be like, oh my God, if they can do it, I need to, if they can work out that hard, I can work out that hard. And here I was, a
yeah,
registered dietitian, like brand new. Like I had, like, so I know how it influences people, but then it's interesting to fast forward like years later when I watch it and I'm just like, oh my God, like how is
sure.
this okay? Because then, like you were talking about those deep conversations, I also noticed they would have those deep conversations, but they weren't working with a therapist to help them like sift through and figure it out. They were basically like put on an island to like just let it all out, bring it all up, but then it's like they're not actually fixing it. You're just dieting and exercising excessively, which we know that's what the issue is today in diet culture. People are putting band-aids on things, they're not getting to the root. And I feel like it's worse to bring it all up and then just like not have the appropriate tools and outlets to really deal with the emotions, because you're right, it's so much deeper than just like what do you eat and what do you work, how do you work out, you know?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think, yeah, and we see it with the after. I know you were talking recently about like before and after photos, but it's like what happens after the show,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
what about more sustainable solutions? And that's why like real true solutions to me are about addressing the issue, not just putting it on display for the world to see. So I absolutely
Mhm.
agree, but
Mhm.
I think to me it's about kind of like the long term, right? It is about what happens after the show because we know you can put people on a camp and you can like grind them into the ground and starve them. They're going to lose a ton of weight, and we also know that those transformations get clicks and get views and get
Right.
traffic, right? And so on one hand it's working, like it's that's what if that's what the goal of the show is, then that works. But if the goal of the show, and I would argue the goal of the show should be um, the long-term health and well-being of the contestants to showcase what that should look like, then that ain't it. Then
Right.
the recipe's got to change.
Right. Let's play a game. Let's pretend that we're going to create our
Oh
own
boy.
show. I'm
Oh,
putting you on the
okay.
spot.
I
This
like
was
this. All
not
right.
part of it.
All right.
But like we totally can. Because you guys, everybody who, if you don't know, my future is to have my own TV show, which is only the beginning. So then I could do other things and I can produce my own show. So let's talk about
All
it.
right. All
If
right.
we were
So
going to produce, yeah,
this is the one that you produce. We're gonna produce. This is after you got your show. Then you're gonna produce the show. Okay,
yeah,
I'm
we're
with you.
going to
I'm with you.
producing a show that it's not even called a weight loss show. Like, what would we
Right.
call it? Let's talk about what would we call it if we were
Uh,
trying to get people to really make a lifestyle change. And even the word lifestyle change is so stupid and trendy right now. It's so annoying. Like people will market things as lifestyle change, and then when you do a deeper dive into what they're recommending, it's like eat 1,200 calories with this shake and this meal plan. Like that's not a lifestyle change. So I
right.
would say we can't even call it that. I feel like we gotta figure it out.
I agree. I agree. We also, I mean, and it's tricky because like this is the marketing of it, and I actually think it's a super important conversation to have because you want to make it sexy, right? Like you
Mhm.
want to make it. You've got to make a show like this, and not just a show like this, but what we're really talking about is like everything that we produce, all the social
Mhm.
media that we produce, right? It's got to be consumable. It's got to be accessible. It's got to be stuff that people want to engage with,
Right.
but it also has to be honest, right? It's got to be real. It's got to like get into the more honest, I think, like deep, truthful answers. And so the hard part is, how do you do both of those?
Hmm.
And I think that so often you see people do one or do the other in kind of a boring, dry way. But I do think there's an opportunity to try to do both. But I don't have all the answer. I don't know what it would be called. I mean, I
I
think
know.
that's a great
We have
question.
to.
That's a great
We are
question.
gonna brainstorm this one. Our
But I
next
do.
double date. We are brainstorming this.
That's right.
Me,
That's
Mel,
right. All right. I
and
like
Bruce.
this.
We're gonna figure this one out.
I do. I sometimes think about, like, I have the first scene. I know what the first scene of the show should be. So to me, like, I feel like a great first scene of this show that we're gonna eventually, that you're gonna produce and that I'm gonna be on. All right,
Yeah.
that's the perfect first scene. It's
Yeah.
gonna be like the contestants. I wake up the contestants like suddenly out of their sleep, right? And I'm like this drill sergeant, looking like I look like tough guy. Like, we're gonna crush it. We're gonna, and like everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening here? It's this like go go, and then like it's the record stop, and it's and then we say, like, this is exactly what we're not going to do, right? It's
Yes.
not going to be
Yes.
this. So like the very first scene is kind of like, oh, it's the same, right? Drill sergeant-y,
Mhm.
hard ass, like, let's just pound you into the ground kind of weight loss show. But then immediately from there, it's like, no, that's not what the show is going to be about. And then we gotta ease into what it's truly about.
I
that's
love
that's
it.
what I feel like the first
Yeah,
scene should be.
that's amazing. That's literally, yes. That's where we're gonna start with. Um, but
All right.
yeah, that's okay. We have lots of work to do. I just created a
That's
whole
right.
project on a podcast.
I know. Add it to the to-do
It's
list.
on the to-do list. But no, this is really, really great. So because speaking about transformations and things on weight loss shows, we also see it on social media, right? And before we kind of go there, I do want to just say, guys, if you're not following Rob on social media, what's your handle? Is it Rob's? So I always pronounce your name wrong, last
It's
name wrong.
it's bandana training.
Oh, it's Bandana Training. Yeah, that one I know. That's why I can never say your last name, because I don't say it. I call you Rob,
That's right.
or Bandana Training.
That's what most
So
people call it. Yeah.
follow Bandana Training on Instagram, and your new like the reels you've been posting of like the easy, medium, hard, and superhero. I'm literally
Uh,
obsessed with. I think everybody needs to look. So if you're into fitness and you're trying to get into it and you're just a beginner, Rob's the perfect person to follow. If you're an intermediate workout person, Rob's the perfect person to follow. If you're advanced, follow Rob. And if you feel like you can challenge him with like superhero moves, I don't think you can, but if you want to see if you can, follow Rob. Like you do a really, really great job at showing like so many different sides of the spectrum of like where fitness can be. Can you speak to maybe why you've done that, and why you don't just show off, because you really are super fit and like you really do really cool things that a lot of people can't do? So like why isn't that your whole Instagram?
yeah.
Because it's clickbait.
Um,
We know it's clickbait. So why
yeah.
aren't you doing that?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for that question, because it's a question that's really important to me. I see a lot of people on Instagram and a lot of people on social media, and to me, like, the recipe for success on social media from a training perspective is like, don't wear many clothes, and do sort of like random shit. Like, it really doesn't matter what the exercises are, as long as they look really cool and that there's like lots of action and it's sexy, right?
Mm,
And when you do that, like, if you do that and that's like your whole thing, you can grow your following pretty quickly. But the problem with it is that it actually has nothing to do with training. Like,
yeah.
it's not helping people develop. It's like, here's me looking hot, doing something sort of ridiculous, um, and people like that. It kind of gets their attention, and it grows your following, but it doesn't help them develop as an athlete, or in their physical journey. And so I feel like it's just important to me to do what I do, which is I want to help people. And that was sort of the genesis of the easy, medium, hard superhero, was like, it doesn't matter where you're at on your journey. Like, I said recently, you want to be a little bit outside your comfort zone, because that's kind of the sweet spot of where we should train. But it doesn't matter where you're at in this, whatever, this little example of exercises that I'm giving. Um, Pick your hard and then train that, right? Like train that and trust in that process and know that if you keep training it and you stay working at it, you can eventually get, a little bit more challenging and more challenging and more challenging. And that's training in a nutshell. But I don't know. I get so frustrated with the like just hot bodies in motion doing completely random things, and a lot of people considering that to be like that's what training in a influencer age looks like.
Yeah, it's either I find like very intimidating, or like you said, not really helpful because like if someone's never worked out before, or even if they have, like there's a lot of moves that like they can't really do. And
Yeah.
then it's I don't know, it's just not I don't think it's really like you said here, if you're really trying to help people and like create behavior change, I don't think that's it. You
Yeah.
know?
I agree. I agree. It comes down to kind of intention. And if you're on Instagram to be an influencer, then I think they're doing it right. But if you're on Instagram to help people, or to be a trainer, then I
Mhm.
don't think they're doing it right. So
Right.
it all comes down to, what they're what they're trying to accomplish.
Right. And so sometimes those accounts will also show like I guess they're usually often coaching clients on like weight loss or something, and they'll show a lot of like before and after photos of, where they are, where they started. Like, what are your views on that? Do you think that it's damaging? Do you think that people should be like unfollowing those accounts? Like tell me more about what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty ruthless with the unfollow, and I suggest that we should all be ruthless with the
Hmm.
unfollow. Like, if anyone, even it doesn't matter what the account is. Like, if the account is making you feel a sort of way that isn't good, I would highly suggest unfollowing. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, I feel like that is I'm trying to spend less time also just kind of engaging with social media in general. So like unfollowing all of it in some
Hmm.
ways,
Hmm.
because I just don't get a lot of satisfaction. Like I don't get a lot of joy out of sort of scrolling on social media. So I'm sort of reanalyzing my relationship with all of it. But I think more immediately, unfollowing accounts that don't serve you well is a very good idea. And I'd say like be ruthless with the unfollow button. As
Hmm.
far as transformation photos, I think they are problematic. And the things I think of is like, what if you look like the before photo in a transformation? When like if you look more like the before photo than the after photo, how does that make you feel?
Hmm.
And it also kind of showcases this sort of immediate result, right?
Hmm.
Even though, even if they're trying to say like this happened over the course of X amount of months, we see it right there side by side. And there's kind of there's always this sort of insta-ness
Hmm.
to all of it that feels like it just kind of drives that desire to, I want immediate results. I want to lose weight as fast as possible.
Hmm.
And again, it's just coming back to the fact that that's problematic. The as fast as possible thing is kind of the issue. Like I
Right.
think we have to get away from that.
Well, because what either happens is you're triggered to do something very restrictive, very rigid to get results as fast as possible, or you're triggered to do that, but then to come to the realization of like, I can't do that. I don't have the willpower. Like I'm not able to, you become overwhelmed. And then, I mean, from my experience, what I've seen my clients do before they started working with me is they would go and binge and they would be like, what's the point? Like, I'm never going to get there. It's too hard. Like, why even try? So it kind of just triggers you to go to both extremes, which is
Yeah.
not helpful. Um, so I think we
I
should
was
get
just
triggered to unfollow.
That's right.
You're gonna be
That should be
triggered,
no, that's
unfollow.
right. That's the great I think that's a great response to it. And it seems
Mhm.
like that's a far healthier answer. Yeah. And I was just talking with Mel recently about like Mel talks about binge eating a lot, and
Mhm.
like, why we end up kind of in those places. And again, just I think being able to I hear the level of compassion and the care that Mel brings to the table.
Mhm.
And to me, that's just the antithesis of the before and after photo on Instagram. You know, it's like it's really deep work and it's meaningful work and it's personal work. And that to me is where it's at. And I know I witnessed it firsthand with Mel, and with my own clients in terms of training, you know, we're having kind of similar deep conversations, maybe not quite as deep as Mel. Mel likes to go real deep, you know.
Yeah. So I think I like got all excited about saying how Mel's my best friend, but I don't know if I said that she's a dietitian. So Mel's a registered dietitian. We went to college together. We went through the same master's degree internship together, and she works specifically with people with eating disorders and in athletes that have eating disorders. So we're gonna have her back. But yeah, she goes real deep. She's not afraid to. But honestly, that's where the real change happens. You got to get there.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I mean that was a really great point. Like you see her coaching clients, you hear what they're you know the passion that when she talks about things, and so it's so much deeper than just a picture, like a before and after photo. Like it's so much bigger. And also for those who are healing their relationship with food, they might gain a little bit weight, or they might come to the realization that the previous what they thought was like trying to get six-pack abs, or not even six-pack abs, just like 20 pounds later, to them that it causes them to go back into their old eating like the disordered eating patterns. And so they need to be kind of just accept where they are now. And so those pictures will make them like bring up old things of like, oh, now I need to try harder, now I need to lose more weight. But really, when you get deep down to the work, the answer is no, I actually don't have to do anything. I just need to accept my body here, appreciate it for what it can do for me, and continue to nourish and take care of it in the best way that I know how.
Amen. Amen, Tony.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm with you. And I actually think it's like eating disorder awareness week, right? Isn't
It
it?
is.
Isn't that this
Yeah,
week?
when we're
Yeah.
recording, yeah, so we're recording this on February
Oh, so,
24th. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, the more the better. I need to do more better at like spreading the awareness like for the week. I talk about it all the
yeah.
time, but I should go extra hard this week. That was a good reminder. But yeah, it's important to talk about because whether you struggle, this is one post that I um, put on Instagram. It got a lot of views, which I'm grateful for, which is whether you have an eating disorder or you have disordered eating, neither of them can be fixed by a Google search. So you need to, if we're going to be talking on bringing awareness to these eating disorders and patterns of restriction and binging and excessive exercise to the point of like you're chasing this number on the scale or looking a certain way, we really need you to stop thinking that this fad diet or this, influencer on Instagram with no credentials is the answer to that. It's really not. Like you need to go to a nutrition professional or a mental health professional, whoever that you feel is, needs to, who's going to help you. They need to be certified and have the right credentials to be able to do that for you. And you can't tell by
Yeah.
just looking at like if they have before and after photos on their website, it's
Probably
hard.
a good indication that
Not for an eating
that's not
disorders
where it's at.
no, not going to help you with that. If you're doing a
Yeah.
bodybuilding competition and you have no issues with your relationship with food, totally okay. But if we're talking about
Right.
bringing awareness to eating disorders, I would highly recommend not using that person for your services.
And not for nothing, but my own opinion is those that do bodybuilding shows often have a very disordered relationship with food.
It's
So
rarely
they
rare
can
that you
also,
don't.
not always, but yeah.
Yeah. It's really rare when you find someone that doesn't, or unfortunately, because it's so restrictive. One of the very first things to heal binge eating disorder is just getting out of an extreme calorie deficit. Like literally, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, for a lot of people, it goes deeper than that. But a good majority of people, if you just remove the calorie deficit, and you might have to give up the idea of losing those last 10 pounds, that alone can really help you. So when you put someone in an extreme setting where you have to get to like a very, very low percent body fat that's literally not healthy or sustainable by the body, like that is going to lead to a binge eating disorder, unfortunately. Because you're
Right.
also never going to look that way again when you step on that stage, because you're dehydrated on purpose so you can see all the definitions of everything. And so if you're really being healthy, you're not going to look like that ever again. So you kind of have to
Yeah.
let go of that. Unfortunately, it does trigger a lot of disordered eating patterns after the fact.
And I think a big part of the issue is like these coaches, they can get you there, but there's never the conversation about what happens after that, right? There's never a conversation around the binge eating afterwards, and what happens in the subsequent months. And it's not unlike the conversation we were having around the television show, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing that's unfolding here, is like, we have to be more transparent about, even if your goal is to get that lean, I think the conversation needs to be, just so here are the consequences of that, right?
Right.
And that, I believe in body autonomy. Like, I believe that people should have the choice to do whatever they want with their body.
I love
But
that.
as practitioners, as professionals, and as people who like understand this stuff, we also then have to say, just so you know, like, this is
Mhm.
what is then going to happen.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I think that without that conversation, it becomes this like, well, this person on Instagram looks like that, and they seem to look like that a lot, or like those are the photos that they always post. So why can't I do that?
Mhm.
And that becomes a bad relationship.
Mhm.
That becomes toxic quick.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that phrasing, body autonomy. I love that
Yeah.
so much. I feel like that needs to be spoken about more. I think the danger with that is where we would get pushback, because I like it, I'm supportive of it, and I want to keep talking about it. But the pushback becomes is like, why is it that you want to change your body? But that's exactly what you're saying. As long as you can be really clear and understanding, why you're doing it, and the cause and effect in order to get those results, then it's a fair game. But if you're kind of going into something hoping for one thing, potentially getting another, or not quite knowing the whole story of it, that's when it becomes problematic.
Absolutely. I agree. It's tough. Like, I love these conversations because I don't so if someone comes to you and they say, like, I want to lose a bunch of weight, right? I do think it's worth investigating why.
Right.
And I've heard some people in the past, like, the counter argument is, I'm not going to argue with my clients' goals. Like, if they come to me with a goal, I'm going to get them there, right?
Hmm.
But I think it's actually a more meaningful process to just unpack it a little bit and say,
Yeah.
like, all right, why is this so meaningful to you? Why is this your goal? And then maybe, like, hey, maybe together we can figure out a better way to get there, a way
Hmm.
to get there that gives you what you want, but that also doesn't have all these side effects that are going to either happen while we're pursuing the goal, or that are going to happen after you get to the goal.
Hmm.
um, to me, it's just a more effective approach, right? So I do think it's worth, again, I feel like I've said it a lot today, but like digging deeper, right? Like getting deeper into the mess of it all, because that's where the truth lies.
Oh yeah, 100%. And so what I will say is that in the beginning, especially when you just start working with someone, you have to kind of build that trust factor, and that the ability to kind of let those layers down over time. So the one thing that I always tell my clients before we start working together is that we unpack the why behind their goal, but I let them know that their goals might change, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like maybe in the beginning, they can't let go of the fact that they want to lose the weight. And then maybe as they progress, they start to recognize, like, okay, I understand what you're saying now. Like, it really isn't about the number on the scale. Like, it really is, but it really is more about how I feel, and my relationships, and my energy, and my mood, and my metabolic health, meaning, like, am I no longer at risk for diabetes or whatever it is? And like as they start to progress, then then their goals shift, maybe not, but I like to let people know that it's okay for your goals to change. It's okay if you signed up for a bodybuilding competition and then you're like realize midway through, you know what, actually this is not going to serve me in the long run, and so I no longer have this goal anymore. Or like signing up for you know I don't know, like a crazy race or something. Like it's also okay. It's great if you want to like see things through and challenge yourself and get through it. But if midway you're starting to really get this feedback of like, this is really more damaging than I think it is helpful to me, or motivating to me. Like it's okay to change that. You don't have
Yeah.
to see it through the whole way through.
Yeah. And I think what you said there at the end is always that kind of balancing act, right?
Hmm.
Because I know I come from, like, my upbringing is, when you commit to something, like, as a wrestler, like, discipline is a huge part of our training. And like, you like, and even, yeah, it's just, part of it's the mentality of like following through on your commitments that you've made. And yet, right, there's the balancing act, which is like, is this continuing to serve me? And like asking, I think, really legitimate and important questions, and not being afraid to pivot, to adjust course based on, listening and learning.
Right. And that's the hard part for people. And that's where, I think we all, I know I've struggled with it. That's what I talk about, like when I make the parallels, like in my book about dieting and dating. And when I would get into a relationship, I was just, okay, this has to work out. So I'd stay in them so much longer than I needed to be in them. Because in my
Yeah.
mind, I found someone, they love me. This is it. I'm in it. But forgetting that, like, it's not the same that it was in the beginning. I don't have those same feelings. Things still aren't working out that way. And like, it's okay to stop it. It's no longer serving me in the beginning as in which I was thinking it, or I thought that it would. But you're right in that sometimes it might be to have that conversation of like, if it's you sign up for like a marathon, right? It's going to be hard. Like training for a marathon
Yeah.
is really, really hard. So you have to decide, like, is me just like kind of cheating myself? Or is this, do I need to like really, or like, am I really, like, maybe you got an injury, maybe you're missing your period, like maybe there's like real things coming up that it's like, okay, you know what, maybe next year, maybe this will be a better fit for me next year. And I think that's what people struggle with the most. I think people have a
Yeah.
hard time identifying, like, am I supposed to be committed to this and see it through? Or like, is it okay to, kind of quit? And I don't even want to say quit, but like stop because it's no longer serving you in the way that you thought it would.
Sure. Or commit yourself to something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are tough questions. And I think that, like, we all individually have different answers, and certainly different circumstances. And that also, I would just come back to, like, when you work with a professional, oftentimes they have some deep experience with this stuff.
Right.
And, they're able to be another voice of reason in that moment of saying, is this normal? Is this
Hmm.
expected? Is this a part of this process? Is this a part of this challenge? Or is this some shit that's like, no, like we
Right.
gotta
Right.
consider something else?
Right. That's a really, really good point. That's a really, really good point. Um, okay, so I can't believe it's like already. I feel like the time is flying right now. I'm
I know
like,
we're out of
we're
time. Thank
almost
you.
no,
Goodbye.
no. But I want to make sure we go over everything. I mean, this is such great information. I do want you to just speak a little bit to maybe being the co-founder of Rumble, which Rumble Boxing. It's a group fitness program. You can talk more about it, but like doing that in New York City in COVID, like I'm sure you've learned a lot of lessons, like from the wedding having to be canceled to people not being able to take classes in person when you just like build this thing to be incredibly popular and amazing. And like, how did you deal with that? I feel like must have come up, there must have been things that were challenging, but you seem to have worked through it. So if you want to just maybe speak to that a bit.
I'm I'm glad I would say working through it.
Working through
It's definitely,
it.
yeah, it's definitely it's in progress now. COVID's been tough. It's been very difficult to be in the group fitness space. The past year has been tough. I think one of the biggest lessons is to not take anything for granted. I know a lot of us have learned that, but certainly in the business space. I mean, we were rocking and rolling before COVID. We started in 2007. We started in 2017 January, and we have 13 studios now. All of them are closed, which is, if you would have told me like we would have 13 studios closed this year, I don't know what I would have said. So
Hmm.
we're doing some outdoor stuff in LA, and the other lesson has been just the need to be agile, to pivot, to kind of be able to respond in real time to things that change very quickly. But yeah, it's been a tough year for group fitness in general, for fitness in general, and for group fitness in particular. But I'm really proud. I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of. We converted a studio into a filming studio, and we've made a big push towards digital content,
Nice.
which has been awesome. And I'm really proud of the stuff that we're producing. So it's highs and lows. Like
Yeah.
it's been it's been sort of a masterclass from the beginning. Rumble has been a masterclass in building a brand, in growing a business, and kind of being a part of the founding team where you get to watch this thing, it's almost like a little baby and it sort of
Yeah.
grows up and, it's incredible and it's amazing. And then sort of COVID happened and it was this like gut punch that's been, that's been tough. It has been tough. And then the one thing I will say too, like it kind of does feel like we've got this like startup energy again now, where we're a little bit smaller, a little bit more nimble, a little bit like, like we've got to do things that are quick and like it's that, there's an exciting energy in the beginning of a business, and because of COVID, we're kind of tapping back into some of that energy.
Mhm.
Not that it's anything that I wanted to do, but the fact that we're there, and I think that we're making some strong choices, and the team is kicking ass. It's stuff that I'm proud of. So
Definitely, definitely. And, I think it was a humbling experience. We wish you didn't have to go through it, but you're right. There is something when you're starting from the bottom and you're not, it's like, but like now you get a chance to do it over again, right? Which is pretty cool. No one
oh,
really gets the chance to start over again, and just like bring it back. And, um, like this whole year, I feel like you've just made lemons out of lemonade or whatever that saying is, lemonade out of lemons. I always screw
that's
up
right. That's
sayings.
right.
Anyways, but let's talk about what you're doing with bandana training, because that's, I feel like, something you've always been, that's your own business, right? You're your own brand that you started a
Yep.
while ago, right? And so you provide like group training with that too, and talk about that.
Yeah. So, at the beginning of COVID, it was sort of like, I feel like we were all kind of stuck in our homes and everything was sort of shut down. And that's when I made kind of a big push back towards the Bandana Training Club and producing content on my own, because that's kind of where we all were. We were all in our living rooms and in our own home gyms and trying to come up with content there and like stuff that was helpful for people. And but the bandana training was something I started many years ago, and it just kind of started as a blog, and I was doing writing, and then it kind of evolved into an online platform where people could buy programs. And now with the Bandana Training Club, I do have classes available, classes that are based around dumbbells, kettlebells, or just body weight training. I just actually launched a mobility class.
Oh, nice.
So I'm kind of beta testing a mobility class. Mobility training is stuff that I've been really interested in, and it's been a big part of my own training for the past year plus. And it's been great. Like the work has been very helpful for me. And so I'm also, it's a nice alternative to sort of the metabolic conditioning classes that I think we're so used to, which are the kind of like bouncy around, like let's get sweaty class. It's a little more thoughtful. It's a little more, we get into some anatomy. Um, and it's stuff that I'm excited about and kind of geeking out about right now. So we have Mobility Club in there as well. And then Mel does the Fueling Club. So Mel does presentations bi-weekly, kind of every other weekend. She talks about topics of nutrition that are interesting. And some of them are live, some Zoom live presentations, or they're all live and then they get recorded to on demand within the membership. So it's fun to be able to work with Mel. It's fun to be able to kind of, do stuff that we're both excited about. And then the next iteration, what's really exciting to me about the Bandana Training Club is I'm in the process of developing kind of an at-home training club, which is a little bit more in line with my own style of training, which is kind of being on a program. So you come back to the same workouts.
Hmm.
It also takes advantage of the digital fitness classes that we have in the club. So it's a combination of your own workouts and fitness classes. It's kind of designed for someone who's comfortable with group fitness or comfortable with digital fitness classes, but looking to sort of level up their routine and get more on a training plan and less into just sort of random fitness classes.
Yeah. But I think that's really great. So it sounds like you have a bunch of different options for anyone. And I know
Yeah.
that your views on fitness are similar to my views with nutrition, and like in that you kind of have to figure out what's the best fit for you. So I think it sounds
Well,
like your platform has a lot of different options for someone. How would somebody know if they're like better suited for to like follow a program versus like just going there and like start taking the classes? Is there a way to kind of
I would
identify?
say, yeah, I mean, it really depends on how long you've been training. In the beginning, if you're just getting into a fitness routine, what's most important to me is that you do stuff that you enjoy doing
Hmm.
and that you make it consistent. Because truthfully, it doesn't really matter what you do. Like
Hmm.
the first couple months, what's most important is that your consistency is king
Hmm.
in the beginning and always, but in the beginning especially because you're establishing new habits, and it's really helpful to do stuff that you enjoy doing. So if you're just getting started, and that's why we have the classes, right? If you're just getting started, take classes, enjoy the process, right? Check in with your body, see how you're feeling, and then I think you kind of know, in a month, in 2 months, you start to feel like I wanna take this a little more seriously, or I want to sort of organize my approach here, right? Instead of just doing random, oh, I'll do this today, oh, I'll do that today. You kind of want to say, all right, I want to know exactly what my week looks like or what my month looks like. And it starts to take the guesswork out of that process a bit
Yeah.
because you know exactly what you're going to do all week and all month. And then all that's left to do is to do.
Yeah. Just got to show up at that point.
That's right.
That's awesome. This is great. Okay. So, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners or things you want to talk about before we wrap up and where you can share how people can find you?
No, I feel like we've covered our bases well. Let's see. Also, no, I got nothing. I mean, I feel great. How do you
Yeah, this
feel? You
is
feeling
I
good?
feel good. Yeah, I feel like this is a great conversation. I mean, I really loved it. I feel like we have to hashtag body autonomy and just like go ham with that one. That and creating this new TV show. So
New TV show, yes, that'd be great. If we get
yeah.
if we get a new TV show out of this, Tony, I will. I don't even know what I'll say. That'll be something.
Oh, it'd be so cool. We should just do it on YouTube. We don't really need. That's the thing. My whole dreams of getting my own talk show. I feel like and now it's just doing it on YouTube and hopefully people watch it. I just feel like
Yeah,
that's the way of
I
the
feel
world,
you.
you know.
I know. I know. It's
So
the new
we can
world
do
order
it.
for sure.
We can definitely do it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you, message you, ask you questions, contact you, all the above?
Yeah. So my handles across the board. I'm all over social media, but it's at Bandana Training on Instagram, on Twitter, on the Facebook. Um, I have a YouTube channel, but yeah, I'm starting to play in the YouTube space a little bit as well.
Yeah.
When we
We'll do
launch our
it.
show
Yeah.
together, Tony, well,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, there'll be more content on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely.
And then bandanatraining.com is that's where the Bandana Training Club lives, and there's lots of information on there as well. So all over the Instagrams and the social medias, and then check out bandanatraining.com.
Perfect. So I'll put the link to your website and your Instagram in the show notes. If you guys heard him on any other platforms, Twitter, Facebook, go follow him. But I don't think it'll be hard for you to follow him on these other ones. But all right. So thank you so much, Rob. This was amazing. I knew we were gonna have a great time. Really great conversation. I hope it got you guys thinking. If you're new to the podcast and you like this episode, definitely take a screenshot of it, tag me, put on your story, tag me at tips underscore with underscore Toni or the Tips with Toni podcast, and also tag Bandana Training as well. If you are new to the podcast and you liked it a lot, maybe hit that subscribe button so you can listen to other episodes. All right, and I think that's it. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.